For the members of the public online and in attendance here in chambers, we will get started once we have a third commissioner present. And here he comes. So just one moment.
The amount of chair maintenance that needs to happen every time you sit in there.
All right, Josh, you ready to open up the work session? All right, I'd like to open up the work session for October 8th, 2025 Design Review Commission. We have first item on our work session is item number 1, DRH 25-00268. Catherine? Yeah. Hi.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. This application is for construction of a new 5-story multifamily residential building with 216 units and approximately 1,900 square feet of commercial space on property in MX5 zone. This project is located on a vacant lot north of West Main Street, west of Whitewater Boulevard, and on the east bank of Boise River. This project is part of a larger multi-use development. Just a brief background of this application. At September 10, 2025 meeting, this commission approved the project on the condition to review refinements of architecture detailing in a future work session. To address the comments given at the last hearing, the applicant has made the following revisions to the proposed building design. So on the Whitewater Boulevard street-facing facade, the applicant has revised the fiber cement panel arrangement in the southeast corner and made refinements to the store front canopy size and the supporting system. In the south plaza-facing elevation, they have revised the design of the retail area, lobby entrances, as well as a row house. With adding more brick accent and the brick detailing to the facade. Similar brick vocabulary has also been added to the base. I'm sorry, in the south. This is the north facade. So, a similar vocabulary has also been added to the base of the north elevation, to achieve a more cohesive design language. The applicant has also simplified the material palette for the southwest corner of the building by replacing multi-story brick with a combination of stucco E-face and fiber cement to better match the design vocabulary for the overall exterior building design. The applicant has also added exterior light to the building facade as well. The planning team finds these revisions have addressed the comments provided by the commission at the September 10th meeting, and these revisions will improve the overall building design. With that, we recommend approval of this project per findings contained in the September 10th project report, except as modified by the updated submittal documents received September 23rd, 2025, and then this October 8th work session memo. The applicants present today and also prepared a detailed presentation to walk you through the modification they proposed. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Catherine. Questions from the commission for staff? All right. Is applicant present? And if you would, say your name and address for the record.
Good. Whoops, sorry. Good evening, Ryan Cutler, Allquist Development. My address is 1144 South Silverstone Way in Meridian, Idaho, 83642. Thanks for having us. Nice to be back. Although walking in, I was talking to Caitlin. I think we probably all would rather be outside. It's nice out there today. But we appreciate you taking the time to be in here this evening with us to walk through. And Catherine, nice to have you back. We missed you last time. Thank you for your staff report and your detailed information there, helping us get to our next steps here. Just to familiarize yourself, I know we've been through this before, but I like to keep it consistent. Just a reminder of who you're working with on this team and the professionals that we have. We're grateful for them. I believe, I know we have had Bretton Smith talk to us last time. I believe Kevin Zandberg is on. He's the main architect for this site. Should be online if you see them online, listening in, and he will be doing some presentation a little bit later. When we were here last, we heard your comments. We took them to heart. We went back and went to the drawing board to see what we could do to help out on this site. Some of the things that we heard last time that we felt were vitally important to being successful in this work session were the rhythm of the building and cohesion. And I know Catherine talked about that a little bit, and what we could do to simplify a little bit of the materials being used and how and where they were being used to make the building seem a little more cohesive and have a rhythm to that. And we'll walk through those items a little bit later in this presentation. A little bit more information about the brick detailing and the patterns of the brick detail on the building. Also, some comments made about lighting on the site and ways that we could better effectively light the building, which also might help with some of the materiality and the building itself. I'm going to do probably the best thing that I can do and sit down now and let the professional walk you through what we've made on the changes here. But you'll see kind of a pattern of what we've done here. We took the comments that we heard from the DR the last time we were here, followed up with our response. And then after that, we'll be able to go through the building itself to show you what that looks like so you feel comfortable. Before I sit down and turn the time over to Kevin, any questions that you have for me at this time?
Any questions for applicant yet?
No. And I'll happily stand up later if you have any other questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Kevin if he's on there. Okay.
Kevin, when you're able, please just state your name and address for the record.
Right, my name is Kevin Zandberg. I'm with Method Studio, and our office address is 422 Aspen Avenue in Salt Lake City. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So just to walk you through the changes, and again, we appreciate the time as Ryan said as well, and looking forward to walking through what we believe are enhancements. We appreciate the suggestions that you guys provided, that the commissioners provided in our last meeting. So I just want to walk you through those elevations and what specifically we did. If you can go to the next slide. So this main elevation, we pretty much left this intact. The only thing that really changed on this elevation was clarifying, I think, the attachment of the awnings at the fitness level, which is at level 1. But everything else, for the most part, on this elevation remained the same, except for the far left side. And if you go to the next slide elevation, I could probably explain that a little bit better. Thank you. Yep, that's the side. So what we did here, and this is where we spent probably a lot of our rework, was on this corner. We understand that there were some concerns about how materials were being utilized, and just some desire for some clarity and some simplicity in the design. So what we did here, as opposed to where we were initially, was we extended that brick around to the south side of the building. You see where we have that cafe area adjacent, that elevation entry point. Turn that into big, pop that out a little bit so it had a little more dramatic feel to it. similar to what we were doing at the fitness area, which fronts Whitewater. We cleaned up that corner. That southwest corner was more angular. We looked at floor plans and kind of cleaned that corner up so that it just was simplified. We felt that it was a little awkward the way that it was angled initially, so we believe we took the effort and cleaned that up. We also, in this elevation too, made sure that we still maintain a significant entry point into the site from the plaza area into the building itself by articulating that larger balcony element and bringing it all the way down to street level, which again forms that entry into the building. So again, we wanted to make sure that we had provided a clear entry point into the building from that plaza area. But those are some of the major things that we did. So again, we kind of simplified, we believe we just simplified the design and created what we believe is a better rhythm to what was going on at that base level, specifically at the pedestrian scale. So if you go to the next slide, which shows this corner of the building, again, one of the big things that we did was we brought that brick around. It had initially existed at the level 1 elevation here, but we had the brick extending all the way up at that outside corner. And in a desire to kind of keep a regular language and really kind of provide a base for the building, we decided that it would be better if we pulled that brick back down, bring some EIFS and some fiber cement panels at that corner, and really work those corners of the building so that they had a very similar feel. And you'll see that again when we go around the building. But that was one of the big areas that we cleaned up here, was that vertical brick element. We brought that down and really tried to stress the horizontality of the brick and making really the brick the base of the building. And then on the townhomes, we added a little bit more articulation of the detailing of the brick. And we also, on that upper level, brought in the metal panel that you see there. We had that metal panel on level 1. Now we brought that up into level 2 just to help it read a little bit more consistently on both levels. And again, the intention here with those 2-story apartments was really a modern interpretation, kind of a turn of the century townhomes. So we weren't, again, trying to make these look historic. It was definitely a modern play off of that, but we wanted to make sure that there was this sense of combination of brick and more modern materials as well. But again, and you'll see that in some of our other details as well with the brick, we tried to be more intentional with how we were bringing in some brick reveals, more intentional about the coursing above and below windows as well. All right, you can go to the next slide. This would be the north. Sorry, do we have the slide of the north? Yes, this one. So here again, we at this corner of the building's the northwest corner. Initially, we had the brick going all the way up at that main corner of the building as well. Again, we brought that down. We brought brick all the way along the bottom of the building at level 1, again to just re-emphasize that rhythm of the brick really being the base of the building. So we again just removed that vertical element of brick at that corner, brought in similar materials. So now all the outside corners of the building have a very similar read and feel to them as you move from corner to corner around the building. And again, you can see we've also added some exterior lighting here. We've added some more, at least at the brick level, and then we've added it at that main level on the entire perimeter of the building. So those are kind of the major components that we work to address, responding to the comments. There is a detail of there's a brick detail sheet that we provided as well. You could move to that detail. And again here, again with a couple of just simple elevations, just trying to show how we were working to articulate the brick facade, especially at the commercial level and then at the 2-story apartment level. Again, showing how we were using soldier coursing in some of those locations, how we were creating reveals, just to help you understand. I mean, again, we wanted to be sensitive to that idea that we needed to give a little more clarification to the brick detailing. But again, being that modern interpretation, we just wanted to keep that detailing relatively simple in nature, but yet create some interest. So I think that that summarizes what we've attempted to do to address your comments directly. Do you have any, commissioners, do you have any comments or questions for me?
Questions from the commission on the changes proposed? Comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
No, I think that this is an improvement. I think this takes into account a lot of the concerns, or at least commentary, that we provided. I do think that that southeast corner looks a lot more cohesive, there's a lot more continuity in terms of kind of these, ground floor objects that are sort of stepping out from the main mass of the building. And I think that those have a nice durability to them. And I appreciate, adding a little more depth and a little more articulation to the awning and the tiebacks there. I will say that I think the not inconsistency, but just the difference between the parapet height on the east side versus the south side of those two little masses means your tiebacks are hitting like at the parapet cap there. I'm sure you'll look at that as you get into CDs, but the one question I still have is at the parapet on the south facade at the very top, you still have this kind of overhang, which you don't have on the north side, the east, or the west, and it comes out and it kind of it's flush with those the kind of vertical elements there, and I think you can kind of see it there with the wood soffit underneath it at the very top of the parapet.
Right.
And it's just I like this is probably a personal preference thing, but it just seems a little strange to have that there but nowhere else. I recognize, south facing, we provide shade in summer months, but the depth of those is probably what, 3-4 feet.
Correct.
And it's so high above the windows. I just don't know how much actual shade you're going to get off of it. So it's kind of like, I don't know that it's necessarily adding anything to the building, and I don't know that it's not the same as any of your other conditions. And I think it lessens some of the architectural moves that you have going there with the verticality. So, I mean, I'd save you a couple bucks and pull it off if it were me, but.
I guess the reason we had kept it on there, Commissioner, is it provided, I think, some weather protection from that balcony deck. Because I understand what you're saying too regarding shade. Based on where it is, it's going to provide very little shade to the unit itself. I think we were looking more for at least some level of weather protection. Again, it's still an open balcony, right? So you're still going to get rain, so forth in there. But again, any falling snow, anything like that, we felt that some protective element above that upper balcony still made sense. Now, I mean, could we play around with that a little bit? Yeah, but at the same time,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was really referring to the spaces between the balconies.
oh, sorry.
I totally agree. Keep the overhang on the vertical elements, but where in the lower parapets between the balconies, that overhang doesn't seem to be accomplishing much in my estimation.
So yeah, I just wish you had a better photo of that or a better image of that as well. But you're talking about in between the larger elements.
So if you look at the left-hand side of this image, you've got those verticals with the interior wood, and they project up above the parapet of the main body of the building, right?
Right.
And that parapet goes straight up, and there's no overhang. And then if you look on the right-hand side, you've got the verticals that project up above the main body of the building, and they've got the wood interior. And then the parapet of the lower part of the building has an overhang that projects off of the face. And it's that overhang that between the large verticals, between the balconies. And that overhang doesn't exist on your west facade or your north facade or your east facade.
Okay.
Other comments or questions for applicant? I think I agree with Mr. Stad. Yeah, I don't know that I had noticed that right up until you pointed that out. So now I can't unsee it, but that's okay. Yeah, I could probably carry either way, really. I guess at this point I'd open it up to the public for any testimony. Not seeing any in person. Josh, anybody online wishing to testify? Okay, if not, turn it back to the applicant if there's any last words.
No, thank you for your feedback, Commissioner Stead. I'm tracking with you on that, and we'll talk with the architect. And I see what you're saying in that, but just thank you for your time. We appreciate your feedback always, and heck, we even had some feedback this time that was reducing cost. I think that's great.
There you go.
So we're going to put that down in our book. So we appreciate that very much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission for discussion and a motion. Seems like initial impressions were positive of the changes that they made. A couple of their suggestions, but overall, I think they did what they asked for.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would move that we approve DRH 25-00268 through this work session.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Christina, please call the roll.
Marsh,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Erstad,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our second item tonight, DRH 25-00270. And this time we turn it over to Caitlin whenever she's ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Next, we have the work session for DRH 25-270. This is the same property at 3150 West Main Street. And then this application is for the retail and parking structure. Last month, the Commission approved the application with a future public work session to review materiality, facade articulation, and screening. I'll let the applicant provide a presentation going over all the updates, but the biggest modification is the garage screening. So just a reminder, that top image is what the applicant proposed at the hearing last month, and there was some request for some variation along that longer facade, and then I think we talked about different lighting possibilities. So the applicant has provided some updated drawings. And then they also provided some other updates around the building that I'll let them present. If the commission would like to approve the work session updates, we do also have a recommended motion. And with that, we can hear the applicant's presentation unless there's any questions.
Great. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, the applicant would come forward, and Ryan, if you don't mind, saying your name and address.
Not a problem. Thank you, Ryan Cutler, Allquist Development, 1144 South Silverstone Way, Meridian, Idaho 83642. Caitlin, thank you for your report. Thanks for letting us be here again, and again for your thoughtful comments the last time we were here. And I have Brad Smith with me tonight from our office, who is the lead architect on this structure, and he will be presenting some of the comments here in a few minutes. We had a before and after up there that was shown. I want to make sure that you're comfortable with the level of the renderings we had before. Maybe were a little higher quality of rendering. I assure you the quality of the building is not downgrading. It's just the way that we're showing the upgrades we made to the building are more in a different style than the rendering we have now. But the materiality of and the professional nature of the building that you see in front of you right now is what is intended to move forward as we build this structure. I don't know if you've been down there. It's exciting to see movement on that site. Things coming in, coming out. We've only found two 2 gas tanks so far, so that's not bad. But we're handling those appropriately. But excited to be here on this garage site. And again, I'll let Brad go through that before. Some of the things that we heard as we discussed in our last meeting, and Caitlin hit on those already, but just to kind of reminder, again, some of the exterior lighting are things that we focused on. The columns and the detail of those columns, and then the top of our garage. Again, we talked about it last time. We had about, I think Commissioner Erstad brought up, there was 350 feet of essentially an area that needed a little more articulation, a little more umph to it. So we've discussed and worked on that. And then the screening as well was something that we talked about last week. And I'll let Brad go through those items here in a minute. And as always, if you have any questions, happy to answer them. Brad will be able to answer most on the materiality and the design of the building itself. But I'll happily stand up here in a minute and answer any questions you might have, but I'll turn the time over to Brad Smith now.
Great, thank you.
Brad Smith, Allquest Development, 1144 South Silverstone Way. Well, thanks, Commission, for letting us come back. Like Ryan said, I think one of the biggest things we looked at was definitely that monolithic, really long north side. So most of the attention has been paid attention to that. A few ways we've done this. We've actually taken the concrete crash barrier and pushed it in and recessed that in so that the verticality of those columns can really show throughout there vertically. We've also taken an opportunity from a structural standpoint. Some of the moment frames, we made those a little bit bigger, so the panel thickness actually changes depending on where you're at. Use that as an opportunity to work with structural. The cable barrier, last time we came in, we didn't have that. We had the renderings that just showed it monolithic, but we've added those back in now throughout the space to create that positive and negative feel. Where we've terminated the cable barrier, we've terminated them on columns and done galvanized angles all the way up to keep that verticality all the way to the top. So it gives it more of that rhythm. And then at the top there of the columns, we've actually gone up above the crash barrier to give even more interest as you go up there. So not only are we creating that verticality, but at the top there, it gives it that interest that we go through out there. Okay, at the end. Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so let's see. Back one right there. Yeah. So you can see that positive and negative space, and then try to get an articulation as you go through the building, a little bit of a rhythm there. And then as you turn the corner where we don't have the columns exposed, they're still trying to keep that rhythm. Also, you can see where the stair tower, we have that L-shaped angle, trying to get the beams and columns to come down there to create that rhythm throughout. So it's not just monolithic, as you can see throughout that there. Tie into the entry portals also. Let's see a few of the other notes here. Lighting. So every other column throughout the back there, we're going to have lighting, up, down lighting. And then we're working with Landscape now to provide sight bollard lighting throughout the patio space on the front. And then on the retail building itself, sconces on the corners there for lighting. Let's see. Variation in the fiber cement panel. So we actually do have a fiber cement panel that has variation and interest in it. And we have the cut sheets for that. Also, in addition to that, we have the vertical score lines there where the fiber cement stops and starts, obviously a rain screen system there. So we've gone through and articulated where those will be. I really do think it's interested at this size and scale. It's hard, but when you walk up there and actually see that in person, when you're going by there, I think you'll have that visual interest in those reveal lines and shadow lines that will go with the retail there. And then the last one, the actual attention to detail. So we've gone through some pretty good length in actually detailing those cable barriers and how they'll end and terminate with those L angles. Have a nice detail there throughout. We'll have a good termination detail where it ends and starts and stops. So also gave some interest there. You can see in this one where we do have cable barrier over some of the concrete and not. I think that was one of the comments is variation there. So it's not just a monolithic. You get a little bit of interest to get your eye to move up and down throughout. On the other side, and yeah, back to the comments of how we address those. So that side there with you can see the fiber cement panels there and the reveal joints. Also have some reveal joints now, and shown in the few places we do have EIFS and stucco, limited on the project, but tried to articulate that also to tie it in together. And so overall questions, I guess, or discussion that you have for us?
I can go back one more.
Yeah.
So we got the entrance into the garage with the L shape, right?
Mhm.
Then there
Yes.
you got the kind of the white panels right above that. Those are the crash barrier, correct?
Correct.
And then right next to them, the ones that are actually striated are
Mhm.
also crash barriers, just with the texture, or
Yeah, so everything will still have the crash barrier. We've just kept that and
Okay.
moved that in. And then now we've gone back to what we had on the original before we had the concrete crash barrier and taken those cables. So you have almost a dual effect, a layering effect to give it
Okay.
that layering effect.
those cables are in front of the cash barrier?
They are,
Gotcha.
yes.
Okay.
But the connection detail, I think there is what we're really focused on to give it that nice detailing. Give that verticality.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Stead.
I think once again, they've done a good job of integrating comments that were provided and addressing concerns. So unless there's more commentary, I'd be willing to make a motion.
Yeah, we'll close it real quick for the public, see if there's anybody to,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
sure. Ms. Aguilar.
Brad, I noticed that you're not showing any mechanical equipment and I'm assuming it'll be on top of the retail.
Correct.
So I just have more of a statement that I would expect all that to be screened per the city requirements.
Yes, yeah, right now, since the building's so long and most of our makeup air units are going to be underneath the garage, we'll do inline makeup air and then go right up in our exhaust fans. So probably what we'll do is a point of source for the RTUs. The other thing we have looked at is adding a screen wall, which we know we'd have to do a plan modification. It's just hard right now with what we're going to have and what restaurants in there. So having it dual between underneath the garage and the rooftop, but absolutely.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We'll open up to the public, seeing none in person. Josh, anybody online wishing to testify tonight? All right, any last words?
No, just appreciate your time and your comments. And Commissioner Aguilar, yes, that's one of our conditions of approval, so we'll happily meet that. And again, to Brad's point, once we finalize our restaurants and things there, we'll determine where those walls will be. So other than that, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll close the public portion of the testament or the meeting, bring back to the commission for discussion and a motion. Reed, seems like they picked up comments that we asked them to, so if there's any other discussion, I'd be open for a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Stead.
Move that we approve DRH 25-00270 through the work session.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Move to second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Christina, please call the roll.
Marsh,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Erstad.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great. That concludes our items for tonight, and we'll just go through a quick agenda review.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we'll just run through the agenda for the hearing tonight real quickly. Just two items on the main hearing tonight. Item number one is DRH 25-00302, 6101 South Pleasant Valley Road, and that is for an approximately 400,000 square foot single story warehouse building. We are recommending that one on the consent agenda. Item number two is DRH 25-00226, 5123 West Bond Street. We will hear that item. That is for a multifamily residential development with 205 units. And we are expecting some members of the public on that one. So
Understood.
barring any questions, we'll get started here in, I guess, about a little over 20 minutes.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
We're adjourned.
All right, Mr. Chairman, it is 6 o'clock. We can go ahead and get started.
Great.
Good evening and welcome to the Boise City Design Review Commission public hearing. A few things to start out with for tonight's proceedings. Everyone from the public entering the hearing virtually has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you will be called upon and unmuted after you raise your hand. There's a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. Our procedures for public hearings begin with a presentation from the planning team. Then we'll go to the applicant and then the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association, followed by questions from the commission. After that, we proceed to public testimony, starting with those who are in person, then those who signed up on the sign-up sheet in advance, and finally anyone else who raises their hand either virtually or in person. If you are attending through your telephone, you can type in *9 to raise your hand. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. And finally, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. And with that, Mr. Chair, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you, Josh. We are the citizen volunteers appointed by the mayor and approved by city council. Any decision made tonight may be appealed to city council, provided that the appeal is filed within 10 days of the hearing. In order to excuse me, in order to file an appeal, you must have been given written or oral testimony at tonight's meeting. So that's why it's important for us to give your name and address when you testify tonight. We utilize a consent agenda. This means that if the applicant agrees with staff report and there is no public opposition, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved with one motion without further public comment. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a whole public meeting in the order detailed just a few minutes ago with staff, applicant, neighborhood meeting, and then the public testimony. Thank you for all attending tonight. And with that, will the clerk please call the roll?
Temple. Marsh.
Aye.
Aguilar.
Aye.
Erstad.
I am here.
Gesrick. 3 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. The first item we are considering for tonight's consent agenda is item number 1. It's DRH 25-00302. The location is 6101 South Pleasant Valley Road. It's for the construction of a new approximately 400,000 square foot single-story industrial building and the associated site improvements on a property in a I-1 AIO WUI light industrial with airport influence overlay. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. Sorry. Before that, we have minutes. Sorry to approve. Apologize. We are looking for a motion on the minutes from last month. They are from September 10th, both the Design Review Commission meeting minutes and the Design Commission work session minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would move that we approve the Design Review Commission meeting minutes and work session minutes from September 10th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Stad. So moved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I was not in attendance at the last meeting, so I was going to abstain, so I don't know if I can second the motion.
Yeah, you can second that.
Therefore, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Motion's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Christina, you please call the roll.
Marsh.
Aye.
Aguilar.
I abstain.
Erstad.
Aye.
2 in favor, 1 abstain, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to consent agenda. First item to be considered is item number 1. Again, that's DRH 25-00302, a 400,000 square foot single story industrial warehouse building and associated site improvements on a property in a I-1 AIO WUI light industrial with airport influence overlay and wildland urban interface overlay zone. Is the applicant present tonight? Anybody online? No? Nobody in person? Oh, okay, good to see you. Thank you. Let the applicant is present. Is the applicant in agreement with the recommended conditions of approval? Please let the record show the applicant is in agreement. Are there any members of the public wishing to testify in opposition to this item? Seeing none in person, any online, Josh? With that, this item will be moved to the consent agenda. And that concludes our items to be considered for tonight. And at this time, I'll be open for a motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Stad.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of item DRH 25-00302.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Christina, will you please call the roll?
Marsh.
Aye.
Aguilar.
Aye.
Erstad.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you very much. So the first item to be heard tonight is item number 2. It's DRH 25-00226, locations 5123 West Bond Street. And at this time, I would turn it over to Caitlin for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. This application is for a 205 unit multiple family development consisting of 2 6-story buildings and approximately 4,800 square feet of commercial space. The project consists of 4 existing parcels on the block bounded by Fairview Avenue, Fowler Street, Bond Street, and Hilton Street. There's a residential neighborhood to the north, and there's a variety of commercial uses along Fairview. The property is in the MX3 mixed-use active zone, which is focused on providing transit-oriented development. The development is comprised of 2 buildings with an unopened alley right-of-way between Fairview Avenue and Bond Street. The applicant is planning to enter into a license agreement with ACHD to incorporate the northern portion into the project circulation. The property on the southwest of the block will remain and retain their existing access on Fairview, but this project will not utilize any access on Fairview. This project will have vehicle access from Bond Street and Fowler Street. Besides the parking, the ground floor also includes residences, resident amenities, and the southeast corner includes a commercial tenant space. The second level of each building includes residential units, amenities, and outdoor courtyards, and the upper floors contain additional units and amenities. I'll let the applicant present their overall design concept, but just to kind of go over the buildings briefly, we have Building A on the west side of the project. It has frontage on Hilton Street and then along Bond Street on the north. There is a second level courtyard, and the majority of the building is set back with some green spaces on the ground floor on that north side. And then the applicant is also proposing some large scale murals throughout the project. And then Building B is on the east side. There's the commercial space at the corner of Fairview and Fowler. And then along Fowler are the ground level, we have residential units and amenities. And then the upper right-hand perspective is that north side of the building, which is set back with another green space on the ground floor. We did receive a number of letters in opposition to the project, which are in your packet. Common concerns were the height and scale of the development, an increase in traffic and parking issues in the neighborhood, an increase in activity and noise. The applicant will meet all dimensional standards of the MX3 zone and the parking requirements in the zoning code. And we have included a condition of approval that requires that compliance. ACHD also provided project approval, noting that the project meets all ACHD policies. And as a reminder, the Design Review Commission reviews for compliance with the design review findings in Boise City Code, which I can bring up if necessary. In summary, the planning team finds the project complies with all approval criteria and recommends approval subject to the recommended conditions in your project packet. And I can stand for any questions, or we can hear from the applicant.
Great, thanks, Caitlin. Questions from the commission for staff at this time? Seeing none, is the applicant present? You would come forward and please state your name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Wheeler, 9201 West State Street, Boise, Idaho, 83714. Members, Mr. Commissioner, members of the commission, thank you for your time tonight as we present to you Fairview Village, a project that we are confident will bring needed housing to the Boise area. Our mission is clear: to build high quality, affordable housing to Boise seniors, veterans, and families, residents who are the backbone of this community and who increasingly struggle to find stable housing. Beyond housing, this project provides supportive services and multiple transportation options to help people not just live here, but thrive. Caitlin, is this my clicker here? There we go. All right. So let's take a look at the location of the site in general. You can see here it's located along Fairview. You have the south I-84 and to the north the river with a lot of amenities right off of that. Overlaying the arterial streets in that perimeter, you can see how the access or vehicular access is primarily handled around the site, and then interlaying that local grid on top of that to give you an idea of how traffic would flow throughout the site. As was mentioned, it's in the MX3 zone, which would meet all the dimensional requirements for. It is adjacent to the compact zone, so in future land use and what's preferred by the city. So it is intended that that northern zone is more dense than is currently zoned. One of the best things about this site, I mean, it all comes down to a site of where is it the right place to put an affordable housing project? Now, the Fairview corridor is a massive influx of transit on the daily basis. We're a block and a little over a block from a bus stop that rides every 15 minutes and every 30 minutes during off-peak hours, providing residents with a lot of transit options, and that circulates down to downtown Boise, health and welfare, a lot of amenities and services along Fairview Avenue as well.
Mr.
Boise
Chairman,
River.
just sorry to interrupt, Mr. Wheeler. Can you just speak a little bit closer into the microphone so folks
Oh,
are having trouble hearing? Thank you.
So looking at the site, overall aerial, on the left, you have a top-down photograph of the site. On the right is the site survey. So currently the right half of the site is an abandoned stone yard. So it's a really bit of a bleak eyesore. Currently, there's nothing happening there. Abandoned trucks, beat up buildings. The northwest corner, we have a vacant single-family residence with a yard that's not maintained. In the middle left, we have a studio that was a tattoo studio. It rented out to other uses that were temporary in nature, and that is currently vacant as well. And then the lower left, we have Finer Floors, which is an operating commercial business currently. Here's a view on the upper right of looking at the stone yard. That's Fairview on the left. As Caitlin mentioned in the staff report, the lower right image shows the alleyway that we are leaving as is. We tried to work with ACHD on getting access onto there and a right in, right out, which wasn't really feasible. So we went an alternative route, which we'll discuss. In the lower right image here, you have that's Bond Street. So that's the northwest corner of the site, that single family. We are planning to maintain the overhead power lines there, and we do have wider landscape buffers to accommodate for that, for the shorter trees, but wider landscape. Looking at circulation, so as Caitlin mentioned with the access onto Fairview, that left graphic in the green is what we're not touching at all, that we're just keeping that as is. That's where we originally planned to push through to the site, mainly for emergency egress. The blue in the middle is where we're housing the trash storage. So trash enclosures in the building that then staff or the property manager would wheel out in the area in red to the north, staged on the side of that entrance drive on pickup days. And we've coordinated with Republic Services and have their approval of having Republic Service trucks drive through the podium building. So we do meet the minimum height requirements for them, and we've worked extensively with them to make sure they're okay with our plan moving forward. On the right, we have a graphic showing the circulation throughout the site. So you can see that we have both buildings connect or interconnect circulation wise, and we have two entrances and exits on Fowler and then one on Bond Street. Parking obviously is a big concern for everyone. We do meet the parking requirements per code. We're a little over on building A. So at the top, they're required 37, plus we're having 2 office stalls for support staff, which leads us to 39 required, and when we have 40 provided. Building B, we have 88 required, and plus we're adding 5 retail stalls and another 2 office stalls for 88 or 95 required, and we're providing 96. In addition, we have some lift systems, the stacking systems that we do have 5 bays of that highlighted in blue, which allows us to have the density to allow the mixed use commercial and support the development. And on-street parking. So we're not counting any of this towards our parking. This is parking directly adjacent to our property. And there's about 750 linear feet, 23-foot stalls. You're looking at about 32 stalls available potentially for overflow parking. Now in building A, bike parking, we meet those requirements as well. We currently provide 82 bike stalls, 15 short-term stalls, and 5 cargo stalls. In building B, we provide 196. Let me see if my laser pointer will show. So right here, these are all the bike parking stalls. I believe in the original packet, about half of that was bike parking, which we have since amended to meet the minimum requirement. And on amenities, so in the ground floor here, we have a dog park, and that buffer against the northern neighborhood. So we're really cognizant of how we're addressing those northern single family homes. That's been from day one, we've been trying to figure out what's the best way to approach that while providing enough density here for mixed use and to support a quality affordable housing project. So we do have a dog park and an open space, as well as that 10-foot landscape buffer. On the podium level, we have an outdoor fitness gym. So we're working with with a national fitness campaign for a fitness court. Their mission is to get people outdoors into fresh air and get them moving. So we're planning on putting that on the second level deck. There's also community kitchens on the outdoor kitchens on these podium levels. You can see here at Building B, this is a amenity space adjacent to the podium level. We have more amenity space in the southeast corner and then in the southwest at Building A. And we also will have several other areas of indoor fitness and supportive services for the residents. Infrastructure is noted in the Veolia report. There are a couple upgrades that we're making to the infrastructure around the site. On the north along Bond is a new 8-inch line that we're connecting. And then on the west is a new 12-inch water main. Looking at the income limits and rent limits. So this is just a chart if we need to reference or if there are further questions, but this is showing what the maximum income someone can earn and then what that rent would be for that individual. Now, the overall site plan, as mentioned, here's about 4,800 square foot of commercial. That's intended to be a coffee shop or a sandwich shop, or likely it'll be 2 users in that amount of square footage. So two 2,500 approximate spaces. Again, that benefits the residents and the adjacent property owners as well. We do have studio units and lobby entrances along the front, along Fowler and along Hilton. And we do meet that 60% requirement. So here you can see that dog park. This is just an open space here. Landscape plan, we're meeting all the requirements. In the original submittal, there was some landscape that was updated from that on these perimeters, which we have since revised. So this is approved by the city on the landscape design. You can see here the active ground floor uses, as I was just mentioning. So 60% is the requirement. We're currently at 63.1%. So we do provide a lot of visual interest to the ground floor, a lot of front entry doors, a lot of glass, a lot of activity. Open space, both of these buildings stand independently on meeting that requirement. We're about 41% at Building A on the left and 35% on the right. It is planned to be phased, with Building A being first, followed by phase 2 of Building B, but obviously this all goes together. But even with one being built, it would still meet the minimum requirement. Looking at a building street section, so this is Bond Street on the left. So here you have a 32-foot road, then you have a 10-foot landscape buffer, 5-foot sidewalk, and then a 20-foot setback. So, and then we do pop that back out about 5 feet or so. So right there, you're about 62 feet, not to mention another 20 feet on the north side of Bond to the existing building. So we're approximately 80 feet structure to structure along Bond, which is a fairly generous distance. Along Fairview, we have the detached 10-foot sidewalk and then the 5-foot landscape buffer. And this is just Building A, a section through there. Finer floors sits right here on the left. And this really illustrates, how we're stepping the building back. So this is Bond Street. You can see how we took a big chunk of this mass, oriented the podium this way to not block sunlight, to have more of a setback, as a single-story feel to this portion of the building, as well as stepping back, that additional 20 feet on each side, providing amenities, so active space, people at the ground floor, eyes on the street. Now, our design concept is called Horizons of Hope. It's built on 2 interwoven narratives that speak to Boise's history, geography, and future. The first is Corridor Through Time. And Fairview has always been more than a road. It's been a pathway of cultural connection. The architecture reflects this, with traditional brick at the base, symbolizing permanence and history, paired with modern metal panels, symbolizing growth and innovation. The mural associated with this concept takes a horizontal timeline approach, showing Fairview's evolution from earliest 20th century to today. The second narrative is Foothills to River, vertical lifelines. While the first story moves across time, this one moves upward. The mural begins with abstract water patterns at the base, referencing the Boise River, rises into orchards and vegetation that represent Boise's agricultural history, and culminates at the foothills with the warm sunlight reflected in the architecture as orange metal panels, being those flickers of light symbolic of hope and aspiration. Together, these 2 narratives form the broader theme of Horizons of Hope, a message that affordable housing can both honor the past and point confidently to the future. Now, I'll go through these elevation slides fairly quickly, and we can jump back to Annie for more discussion. At the base, we do have the brick, so that's symbolizing that historic brick of Fairview and the older buildings. And then we have stucco and metal panel. You can see here, we're doing two different colors of metal panel to kind of have that flicker of sunlight on those upper higher levels. Obviously, the murals are concept in general. Maybe we'll refine that. Here you can see this is that second concept, vertical lifelines mural, very symbolic of Boise in general and representing, the geography around the area. One thing I did want to point out was here along building B. So it's a big building and, we want to break it up. And the goal here is we don't want it to be too different though. We want some continuity with it. So what we're doing here is changing up the brick color in that center mass, keeping the same form and proportion throughout and most of the same colors, but switching up that base element to make it feel like a separate building, which is also felt on the podium level. So when you're standing in this podium space, you have two different colors of brick, would feel like you're surrounded by a few different buildings, not just one massive block. A couple of renderings of the project. So this is facing Hilton. This would be the entryway here into the lobby, stairway and signage. This is the amenity space, all floors right here. Here's a top-down view of the National Fitness Campaign, the mural that wraps that corner against this open space here. And then here you have the commercial space. This is on the southeast corner of Building B. And again, looking at the podium level, we are adding a synthetic wood under the underside of these balconies, which will be a big visual interest when you're on the podium level. Here we have the podium level of Building B looking at Building A. And then this is at Podium A looking across at Building B. That's that amenity space that would open out onto the courtyard there. So finally, just some aerial views to show you the general context. So this is Hilton Fairview. Here's the existing access into finer floors. Another view of that dog park section down here, Fowler Street. And this one really shows Bond Street and how we're stepping back. I mean, we're a significant distance away from the property line being out here and a very significant way from any other structure. In conclusion, Fairview Village represents more than just two buildings. It represents Boise's commitment to housing seniors, veterans, and families with dignity, affordability, and opportunity. Under the unifying vision of Horizons of Hope, we designed a project that honors history, respects neighbors, provides essential services, and inspires pride in the community. We respectfully request your approval tonight, and we commit to addressing all staff conditions and neighbor concerns as we move forward. Thank you for your time, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from the commission for the applicant at this point?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Stead.
could you don't need to go back to the slide, but it wasn't clear from it. What is the maximum AMI that this is targeting?
60%, I believe is what, yeah.
Couple of questions real quick. Could you go to the level with like the ground level with the parking? So on the far right in this plan on the north side, those car lifts. What's on the back side of that dog park? Is that a solid wall right there?
It is,
Okay.
yes. And
Okay.
we are stepping over that. There, the second level and levels above cantilever over that about 4 to 5 feet.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it does articulate that a little bit, but it is, yes, we're able to utilize that. One thing I failed to mention is these are the underground seepage beds that are handling the stormwater as well. So we're able to get double use out of that.
And then just straight to the west, I guess, of the dog park, those squares that are on that aisle, that's the staging again for the trash, but that's temporary staging?
Right. Yes. Temporary staging. So here's the trash room right here.
Okay.
Trash chutes, trash room, and then here and here. So those would be wheeled out by staff, staged here on trash day, picked up, and then the truck would roll through here and out, and then bins would be stored back in the room.
Okay, understood. Other questions from the commission at this moment?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Stead.
the streetscape around you, how much you guys are improving essentially 75% of that block, or is the
Correct.
streetscape like the curb and gutter is staying as it is, or do you guys have work to do as part of the project?
I think, I mean, right now, you're asking like, are we repairing all of the curb and gutter around?
Essentially,
Well, we are gonna have to do, I mean, yes, because we need to do curb or detached sidewalks and
Right.
landscape strips, so yes. Yeah.
Are there like bulb outs being required on the north
We've had,
intersections?
and we've had mixed conversations with ACHD on whether they want bulb outs. So we're definitely happy to include them, but we've heard from ACHD directly that, you know, just snow removal, you know, those types of issues that come up when you put those in. So if that's a recommendation of the council, we'd be happy to do that to alleviate traffic, the concern of traffic along Bond. We offered to potentially do speed bumps, but that's the same kind of situation. ACHD is not too thrilled about that either. So we're trying to do what we can to minimize the impacts on the surrounding areas while providing a quality building.
Other questions? Thank you very much. We do have a sign up sheet, so we'll proceed through the site. Actually, is there a neighborhood association? Okay, yes, if you may please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Amanda Hunt, 6211 Butte Street, 83704. I am president of Winstead Park Neighborhood Association, and I'm happy to be here and speak on behalf of our neighbors today. We had a lovely booth at Open Streets just the other weekend. I hope you all got to go out and see the event. One of the things I discovered talking to our neighbors about this project at Open Streets is no one here today is going to talk negatively about affordable housing. No one has said, to me at least, don't bring this to our neighborhood. Boise doesn't need affordable housing. We all know that's not true. They're not really talking about the design or the colors or the murals or things like that. What they're here to talk about is the impact of the traffic and the parking on two very narrow residential roads, the parking and the traffic of three very successful businesses, and a neighborhood where sidewalks are practically non-existent. I drove around the area myself last night. I struggled to find on Hilton, Bond, Fowler sidewalks, Fairview, of course, but anywhere else in the neighborhood, Mountain View, very limited. You've heard a lot about parking. I wrote some testimony that I emailed in, so I don't actually have the statistic in front of me, my fault. But something to the effect of 90% of people own a car. And over 72% of people communicate or commute to work in a personal vehicle. So it's really confusing for us to understand 205 units, more than 205 bedrooms, and yet not matching parking. We heard from the developer that we know Fairview to be a highly trafficked and very busy area. We heard from the developer that there's going to be no egress for traffic onto Hilton, forcing the egress onto Fowler and Bond. Bond egresses onto Orchard up a 3%, I believe someone told me, 3% grade. It's a blind hill going one direction. So we're talking about the potential of 200 vehicles leaving this area, in addition to whatever additional traffic is added for the businesses in the building. I struggle to understand 5 spaces allotted for a coffee shop. Come visit our closest coffee shop, Common Grounds on Eustick and Esquire. They have way more than 5 parking spaces, and they do get parked up even though they're in a very walkable area. One of the things you'll hear about is the height. I'm not an architect. I do not understand city codes. I have a ruler that I can use, and that's about it. I understand that MX3 can go up to 70 feet. Is that my understanding? Maybe that wasn't intended as MX3 when that neighborhood was built. It is entirely single-family residential homes. Almost all of them are 1-story with the occasional 2-story home. I took some photos from Google Street View. If my buddy Google is correct, your average light post is about 30 feet tall. This here is a Hilton and Bond, and the single-story, single-family home on Bond that has mature trees. I don't understand how those trees are going to get a lick of light, even with a 10 or 20 foot setback with this 6-story building drowning them out. They'll get a little from the east and west sun, but I fail to see how any of the vegetation on that side of Bond is going to do well with the tallness of the building. Speaking of green space, there isn't really any green space in the neighborhood. I'm glad to hear that they are adding some green space. I think it is very necessary for people and for their animals. If that green space isn't there and it isn't adequate, what little green space in the neighborhood will be both parked up and dogged up. There is a dead end of sorts at the end of Mountain View that is partially blocked by some stanchions, so it's not treated as a thoroughfare. When people park it up for the 4th of July because they want the view from the hill, but when people figure out that's a safe, quiet place to park their car, it's going to be all those neighbors can see is a sea of parked cars in front of their home where it's never been before. The only green space in the neighborhood is actually there along the ridge at Mountain View, down the hill into Settlers Canal. If it's not monitored for traffic, dog behavior, and litter, it will become a mess, and that mess will go straight into the canal. Speaking of the businesses, there are 3 successful businesses in the neighborhood, including Xanadu. If you're not familiar with Xanadu, they make a lot of fun, creative art. Check them out. When they hold events, they get parked up. The neighbors get parked up, and some of the neighbors will testify to that fact. On the side of the rock building that is now gone or is no longer in business, they have signs that Xanadu made about how to park appropriately to stay out of trouble and save space for other people. So taking that away from Xanadu is going to make an impact upon their business. Furthermore, Boise Rock School is there on the corner of Fowler and Fairview, and they don't have a lot of blockage between Fowler and their business. So there's really not a lot stopping people from parking up Boise Rock School or any of the other businesses that stay near the corner. I hesitate to think they want to spend their time getting cars towed, but that is probably what it will turn to. Just want to make sure I got through all my notes. The other thing I noticed when I went by the site was there were 2 public notice signs, and they were both smaller than this. This is 1117. I had to look for them. I thought for sure there'd be large stanchions, so that was kind of disappointing. I am glad to see that the letter went out. Some of our neighbors have brought it with us. Those were the main points I wanted to make that we heard from Open Streets, people speaking to me directly, people who were unwilling to speak here today. I'm sure you'll hear more from our neighbors. Please do keep in mind, we are not saying don't create affordable housing in Boise. Don't bring this to our neighborhood. What we're saying is, if you bring us a large construction project, take it easy on the neighbors. Talk about quiet. When can they have peace from the construction? Where will the trucks park? Where will the workers park? Talk about the impact of the people that will live there full time, the traffic on the roads, the parking. I know it's permitted in city code to have a reduced amount of parking in low income, but I cannot think of a single Boisean that I know personally that doesn't own at least one vehicle, even if they commute, even if they ride their bike 90% of the time. We know it gets over 100 in the summer and freezing in the winter. They still own a backup car. They need someplace to put it, and this building isn't giving us that in its current state. I cede the rest of my time to my neighbors.
Thank you very much. We'll next be proceeding down the sign-up sheet. First on the list is Tim Martin. Tim, are you available? Would you like to come forth and testify tonight? And if you wouldn't mind just stating your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Tim Martin. I live at 1801 North Hilton Street, which is somewhat kitty corner from this project. My concern, we've lived there 36 years. Most of the neighbors around us have lived there longer than that. This is a very stable neighborhood. It's a neighborhood where you know most everyone. There's an irrigation system that goes through and feeds the neighborhood. We work on that together. We communicate with each other on that. So we're known to each other. We're concerned for each other. My concerns with this project are the height of the building, the homes just to the north. During the winter, we'll probably have no sunlight, very little sunlight in the morning, very little sunlight in the evening during the winter hours. I don't think they will get much of any sun from the south. 6 floors, 6 stories blocks them from that much of the sky. My second concern, of course, is parking. Not nearly enough parking for what an average family would use. I'm assuming that most of the people who will be living there will be families with at least one car. I don't know how many, was 136 parking spaces, with several of those being elevator parking. I don't see people using that very much. I think that these people will be parked in their neighboring businesses' parking lots and up and down our streets. I don't know how our friends or family will be able to park in front of our houses with this many cars trying to fit into this neighborhood. The numbers, 205 units, I would equate that to at least 600 people. That's only 3 people per unit. We know that there are going to be families in there that will be larger than that. I can't imagine but what the 1-bedroom apartments would have but 2 people. So we're looking about dumping 600 people into our neighborhood with their parking. There are very few, if any, sidewalks in the neighborhood. There will be cars parked along the street. That will push the pedestrians and children that play in the neighborhood and walk to the neighborhood school out into the middle of the street for walking. Unless they're walking through our yards, that's the only place they will be able to walk, is in the middle of the street. I have other concerns, but I'll pass the time on. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list is John Ode. John? Thank you very much. And again, if you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is John Odie. I live on 2105 North Mountain View Drive in Boise. And, the other night, my wife and I were driving downtown Boise as the sun was setting on our way home, and we realized something's changed. And then we looked up. It was dark. There were tall buildings all throughout Boise, just blotting out the sun on our way home. We've been driving that way for 20 plus years or more. And it just kind of hit us. Look at the development that's going on. But let's talk about the Boise Bench. So my first memory of summer on the Boise Bench isn't a sound, but a smell. The smell of cool, damp earth as water rushed through the irrigation ditch beside our yard. I remember standing barefoot, watching it spill across the neighbor's lawn, that earthy scent rising in the evening air, that water flowing through ditches first dug by pioneers like William Morris and William Riddenbaugh. It is the lifeblood of our neighborhood. It's part of why my family, for 3 generations, calls this place home. It transformed this dry desert shelf into a landscape of orchards and family farms, and it created a community where neighbors still wave to each other across yards, platted nearly a century ago. This is a legacy of stewardship, not extraction. A spirit I ask us to remember tonight. Now we're being asked to trade that legacy for the Fairview Multifamily Project, a plan to shoehorn 6 stories of steel and glass onto a plot of land serviced by streets that still remember the width of a milk truck, not a fleet of construction vehicles. It offers roughly 205 apartments with only 140 parking spaces, fewer than 1 stall per home. Boise absolutely needs affordable housing, but this is not the answer. These are not homes for teachers, nurses, and tradespeople who form the backbone of our community. They are assets for out-of-state investment firms financed by tax credits that rarely serve the families who already live here. This development also risks repeating a painful history of erasure. We meet tonight on the unceded lands of the Shoshone-Bannock and Northern Paiute people. Okay, so across Boise, we see developers branding new buildings with tribal names like the Bannock, without even consulting the tribes themselves. Naming a complex after a displaced people while repeating the very act of displacement. If we ignore that history, we risk repeating it right here on the bench. Finally, as a dues-paying member of Cruise and Mountain View Lateral Association, I was alarmed to see that the Nampa and Meridian Irrigation District is not mentioned anywhere in the developer's plans or the city's review. Our lateral runs directly through these parcels. And under Idaho Code 42-1207, a developer cannot touch, reroute, or encase that ditch. Is it at time?
Yeah, if you could just wrap up and allow others to speak as well. Thank you.
So I'm asking you to pause. Pause this proposal until a full community, environmental, and cultural impact review can be completed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next on our list, Michelle Hassel. Michelle? As before, if you would say your name and address for the record, please.
Absolutely. So my name is Michelle Hassel. I live at 2610 North Weaver Circle, Boise, Idaho, 83704. And as you can see by my helmet and my outfit, I am one of those biker menaces that commutes to work on a bike. And I think it's really easy to overlay some lines on a map and say that they have planned for traffic. And I do not believe that that area can handle that kind of traffic that's going to come in from a 205 unit building with potentially 500 to 600 residents. That area is used by people all over the Winstead Park neighborhood to where alternative means to access the Greenbelt, to access downtown. It's a safe way to get from Curtis to Orchard and down into Garden City. And not just that, for alternative people who are using alternative methods of transportation, it also, I don't believe that there has really been a plan put together for the type of traffic that would happen during peak hours of the day. Because presumably, while this is affordable housing, everyone there likely has a job or somewhere that they need to be during the day. And they are going to use vehicles to traffic that area. And Fowler Street and Bond Street are both right by Orchard Street right here, which leads down into Garden City and also leads onto a connector to be able to get downtown. And both of these areas get highly trafficked during the morning and the evening. And there is no light support, nothing here to allow for the type of traffic that would be moving out of that apartment complex to get onto Orchard or to get on towards Fairview to be able to get to the connector, which are major traffic points for vehicles going into downtown. So I'm genuinely concerned, of course, about the design of the building being so high, the amount of people that are going to be in there, the amount of green space, but mostly I'm concerned about how that area is going to handle that many people and to allow for people to safely travel, to get to school, to get to work via car and alternative means of traffic. This is my commute every day, going down Fowler Street to get here to City Hall. And I already have issues where some of the traffic coming in is not safe as a biker, as a dog walker, as a runner. And I especially with ACHD not planning to allow for traffic calming or having concerns over traffic calming things, I'm just genuinely concerned that this area just can't handle this level of traffic safely, especially in a city that really encourages people to be able to move around and use alternative means of transport. And then I will cede the rest of my time to my fellow neighbors.
Thank you very much. Next is Nissa Parrish. Hopefully I didn't say that to you incorrectly. If you wouldn't mind, if you'd say your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Nisa.
Nisa.
Nisa Sanfino Parish, and I live at 6205 West Butteview Drive, Boise, Idaho. And we've lived there, I guess, about 27, 30 years, something like that. I know the neighborhood well. When you go up, when you have Fairview this way, and you have the main, you have Curtis coming up here. The elementary school is here, okay? And then the connector, you get on the connector off Curtis, and there's only a little bit of space. When we moved here, Curtis was, remember when it was 1 lane, then they made it 2 lanes. Now the traffic is all the way back to the elementary school, okay, getting on, because that's the main thoroughfare to get on to the connector. If you think about it, you can only get on Cole or downtown. So all the people on State Street, all the apartments there, all the ones on Garden City, they're all coming up that way. We don't have that much coming from that direction on Fairview. You do get traffic, but you don't get that much. But now if you add that in there and you have people going to Meridian to work or other places, not even talking about there's only 160 parking. If there's 160 more people going on there, there's only a little bit of space on Curtis to the connector. So what will happen is people are going to try to get into the left lane and they're going to turn, but there's only, 500 feet there. So what's going to happen is Curtis is going to be backed up. This is going to be backed up. It really can't support it. And so you're going to now look at people that are on Curtis that have a 20-minute wait now to get on the interstate. They're going to have a 40-minute wait because now you have cars coming from both directions. It can't support I'm for affordable housing, but if you cut it down to a reasonable amount with reasonable, if you look at your space and you say, okay, we can do this much for this area. You can't support 600 people or even 160. You don't even have the parking. That's not it. You just can't support the traffic. And it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect people from Garden City. It's going to affect people from State. It's going to affect people even from Eagle, because you can only come up, one way really. So that's something to think about, because it's a traffic jam and it could lead to many accidents on that road between Curtis and Fairview.
Thank you. Next, Amanda. Yeah, that's you. That's great. That's so. Paul McLeod. Good evening, Paul. If you would just state your name and address for the record when you're ready.
Paul McLeod, 1715 North Laurel Street, corner of Laurel and Bond. Approximately 2 blocks away from this 6-story building, and I live right across the street from the Bond apartment. So I'm familiar with the area. My house was built in the 1950s. My parents built the house. So I grew up in the house. I know the area. I went to Kelch. And they talk about affordable housing. We're all for that. But 6 stories is a lot. Traffic is huge. When they redid Curtis Road, they made our Bond Street almost landlocked. Curtis was 2 lanes. They changed it to 2 lanes. Now it's 4 lanes. So I believe that, and I haven't seen a traffic study yet. Have they given you a traffic study? What did the traffic study say?
Yeah, there's an ACHD report.
Because with that many cars going to and from those apartments, each person goes to and from apartment about 4 times. So it's not 200 people, it's 4 times that. I don't believe anybody has approached that number. There's no sidewalks, kids walking to and from Kelch. I walked to Kelch back in the day. But I don't believe that those things had been addressed. And they all talk about affordable housing, and it looks nice and all this, but at Bond Street apartments, they park along the road. And I don't know what the code is for a number of parking spots per resident. But to me, if you say that there's 205 apartments, only 140 parking spots, that doesn't seem right. I don't know what code is. Does that code mean that that code is correct? The code's wrong. Because where are those other 70 cars going to park? In front of my house, from my neighbor's houses. And the Xanadu place is always booked. So I don't believe they've addressed the issue of parking. And when it comes to, you got truck traffic, it's going to be horrible. I mean, when I grew up there, it was a quiet neighborhood. In fact, the Cruzen subdivision, the Cruzes did not want 2-story homes. They were against them. There were only 2 2-story homes in the area for years. They didn't want them. They protested. They would not let anybody build a 2-story house. And this is a 6-story. So if you look at the history of the area, it does not say 6 stories. And it doesn't fit. I mean, it's going to block the sun from the neighbors. Rivers live right across the street. It's going to block their sun. Traffic can be horrible. So I say you should not pause. Just don't allow them to do it. Do something else. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Diane Shelton. Diane, if you would state your name and address, please.
I'm Diane Shelton, live at 5122 Bond. Our house is the house immediately across the street from this apartment complex. I appreciate that with the price of land, there's been a large outlay of money. There's going to be a large outlay and they want to recoup their money. But I would like to give you what the impact will be on us. The house that I live in was built originally in the 1890s. It burned to the ground and they put a new house in the same foundation in 1927. Our house and the Rivers house next door, which were the original 2 farmhouses on the entire area. They're old houses, they're delightful houses, and they have windows across the entire south side. One of the real selling points on our house is that the sun comes in and lights the house, warms the house in the winter. In the summertime, we have those deciduous trees that blocks it and keeps it from getting too hot. I know they've measured distances, but I will tell you that in the summertime, our sun angle is about here. In the wintertime, our sun angle is there, and 6 stories will mean that we will have no sun hitting our house from this time till this time. And it's just going to really be a huge impact on the character of our house. We bought the house in 1989, and we are among the newest of our neighbors. Our house and the Rivers house next door, the Martins, the Morrises, the Bledsoes were all there before us. The Barneses family owned the house. They moved in a couple years later. We're just old, established families, and I just wanted everyone to really be aware how this lack of sun all winter. I'm pretty confident that in the summertime we will get all our sun, but just so that people think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I believe it's Mo Stark. And if you would, please state your name and address when you're able.
I'm Maurice Stark. I started out living in 2016 North Philippi, where I live now, but I was on 1722 Amber in 1983. So I'm one of the first original, when the streets were all dirt streets. We didn't have curbs and gutters. We had to have a local improvement district that built those our money. So I own those damn streets, so don't screw them up. Anyhow, my daughter is an environmental engineer. She lives out there on Mountain View. She asked me to read all this, and she's a nerd. I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to read you her conclusion. In looking at the overall effect of a large-scale, high-density apartment complex on the Fairview Avenue border of the Cruzen Mountain Views neighborhood, we believe will cause detrimental effects to its current inhabitants' livability. These effects include increased traffic, noise, and population, which will cause greater safety concerns for children, families, bicyclists living in the neighborhood and using the neighborhood as a safe thoroughfare. We highly request the city to consider all the above concerns and comments in regards to the development of the proposed properties located at 5123 West Bond, 5106 West Fairview, and 1650 North Hilton. We are not against the development for multifamily affordable housing. We ask that the size, density, and extent of the project be more in alignment with the existing neighborhood. This honors longstanding homeowners, including the safety of neighborhood children and families. These aspects include dramatically lowering the number of apartment units, limiting the project to two-story apartments, providing adequate off-road parking, and creating a new living complex that fits the design and aesthetic look of the historical rich neighborhood. I've known him. I've known these guys for all my life. They're great neighbors. We need to protect our neighborhood. And then Kelt School's right there. Fairmont's just down the road. Capitol's down the road. There's all kinds of traffic going through there. With more traffic coming from that big tower, it's going to be overwhelming. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, is it Wayne Fowlis? If you would, Wayne, just state your name and address, please.
Bear with me 1 minute. Wayne Fallis, 4914 West Bond Street, Boise. As has been noted, the Design Review Committee's purview related to this project is limited to site and building design issues, so I'll try to limit my comments as best as possible to these areas. However, as has also been noted, the 50% parking reduction allowed for affordable housing under the city's new zoning code is ill-advised. Promoting in the long term alternative forms of transportation is commendable, but not at the expense in the short term of local streets choked with resident curbside parking. This is Idaho, not San Francisco. Virtually all residents of Fairview Village will own a car, if not two. Even many of Boise's homeless population own a vehicle. A minimum of one space per unit should be provided. I do not view this project as positive infill. It's excessive overbuild. Nothing of any consequence about the proposed design helps make it either visually or functionally compatible with the adjacent neighborhood. The applicant and city staff both state that the building's massing is pulled back along Bond Street to minimize impacts and provide an appropriate transition to the residential area to the north. First, the 20 or so additional feet of setback does not even extend the full width of the Bond Street frontage. And secondly, the 20, 25, or whatever it is, horizontal feet is a token gesture between a 70-foot tall 6-story building and a predominantly single-story neighborhood across the street. This is especially true when the massive structure is on the south side of the street, creating a cold, dark streetscape in the winter. The new Franklin housing project at Franklin and Orchard, to its credit, is set back from its adjacent neighborhood by a single-story commercial building, a city park, and generous landscaping. And it's only 4 stories in height, not 6. If ever there was a project in which stepped massing is warranted, it's Fairview Village. Building massing that truly provided an effective transition to the adjacent low-rise neighborhood would step from 6 stories in height along Fairview to no more than 2 to 4 stories along Bond Street. Please require that the applicant provide real and meaningful project height and massing variations that truly respect the project's context. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our list is H. Marie Baldner.
I didn't know I'd be on your list.
Oh, well, if you would just state your name and address for the record, too,
I'm
please.
Marie Baldner and I live on Larch Street, about 3 blocks from Bond. And I have listened to all of this and not too much has been said about the additional children at Kell School. And I do agree with everything that's been said. And I think it's outrageous to have a 6-story building. And I think that the parking is just unbelievable. And I live 3 blocks from Bond, and I often have cars parked in front of my home. And that's a long ways away just for parties and so forth. So I have no parking in front of my house many times on holidays and so forth. And when the fireworks are going off, and people park in front of my house, and 3 blocks from Mountain View, 3 blocks from Bond, and it would be just a tremendous effect on all of us to have so many cars parked on the street and so many children walking over to Kell School or however they would get there. Maybe they have to have many cars going back and forth to school. I don't know, but it would be very unsafe for the children to walk. So I agree with everything else that's been said, and I hope that this will be limited to about a 2 to 4 story at the very most, with adequate parking for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list tonight is it Libby Moss? Okay, thank you. Next is Diane Morris. Diane, do you wish to come forth? And if you would just state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Diane Morris. It's 1800 North Hilton Street, one house from this apartment complex going up. Pretty much everything I was going to say has been said, and I'm glad you brought up Kelch Elementary because that's going to be an impact on the school and the safety of the kids going. Parking is a crazy issue. I don't know how they're going to deal with that. There's no way that there's just going to be 105 cars there. And the traffic flow, I'd written something to Ada County. Is there any way, I don't know the feasibility in the laws, but like if they exit on Hilton and they exit on Fowler, can there be some kind of one way where they can only go south to Fairview and not back through the neighborhoods? And again, if they'll consider the size of the complex, maybe lower it from 6 stories. That's kind of a lot for a small neighborhood. We've lived there for 50 years. And what Marie said too, we have traffic and cars parked because we're close to the Fairview area, and that's fine. It's occasional, but this will not be occasional. So if those issues can be thought about, I guess it would really help us. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next, Rudy Weishaupt. I'm sure I butchered that. Sorry, Rudy. If you would just state your name and address.
Rudy Weishaupt, 1816 North Hilton. We're just a block away from this proposed development, and I was just thinking about this. It's like an elephant. It's like an elephant with next to a bunch of bunny rabbits. I mean, it's a monstrosity for our neighborhood. It's way too big. The parking. Quite often I have a pickup and a trailer. I park in front of our house. If I don't have room to park it there, it's going to be a problem. We do, I think everybody has pretty much covered everything else, but it is a close neighborhood where a lot of people that have lived there, then their kids end up living there, buying homes there, or keeping the family house. And it's not a subdivision of rentals. So I think everybody would like to keep it a neighborhood and not a big commercial, a big development that just does not fit with the neighborhood. I think traffic's going to be a big problem. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Next on our list is Catherine Garrity. Catherine, thank you. You would state your name and address, please.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, or the commission rather, I'm Catherine Garrity, and my husband, Paul Castrovillo, and I have lived at 1814 North Philippi Street for 39 years. It was our first home. The neighborhood is lovely. I wish you could drive through it so that you could see
in front of our house and in front of many houses, there is no sidewalk. And I agree completely with Marie that the children walking to Kelch School, they're going to have to walk in the street. And that's just how it will be. And that's tragic. And I think if anybody thinks that there won't be overflow parking into our neighborhood, that's just a naive thought. There will be, and it affects the entire character of the neighborhood. And I hope that you take that into consideration. The only other comment I would make is I agree with everybody in their comments, but the height issue is just astonishing to us. That is too big for our neighborhood. And I think that really needs to be looked at. The only thing I can compare it to is going down Franklin, I believe, is where they just built that enormous complex. That's 5 stories tall by Fred Meyer. It's 5 stories. This is 6. And that one looks enormous. So we just hope that you deny this and this project. Unless they reduce the size to a maximum of like 4 stories, I would think. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Paul Castrovilla. And Paul, if you'll state your name and address, please.
I'm Paul Castrovillo, 1814 North Philippi. I agree with everything everybody said so far. I think the major consideration would be 2 stories maximum because of traffic and park and safety on the streets.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Teresa Shields. Teresa, if you'll just state your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Teresa Shields. I live at 1818 North Laurel Street. We just moved here 2.5 years ago, but I am a native Idahoan, and it's been atrocious to come back and see the amount of people there are here now. However, this particular area, it will be really sad. This is such a beautiful neighborhood. There's so many families, so many children, and it's just the old-fashioned neighborhood. This will really impact the whole area. And I have to agree, I'm most concerned about the children, because the children walking to Kelch, you can hardly get across Curtis off of Plymouth or any of those streets anyway. That stoplight there is so short, you can hardly even walk across the street. And I do know my sister lives across the street off of Curtis, and they're having to put a sidewalk on Poplar to get to, the city's putting that in just this coming year because of not having sidewalks. And I have a feeling this is going to be a huge impact for the city to have to come up with sidewalks for the safety of the children. So I do agree with everybody else about the height and the whole thing, but thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jerry Kaiser. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Kaiser. I live at 2435 Mountain View Drive. I started living there in 1965. I've lived there for a very, very long time. I want to express my agreement with all the issues raised and clarify or add to a couple of those. One of which is I travel the intersection of Fowler and Bond daily. Mountain View Drive becomes Fowler. Mountain View Drive is basically an exit for the area between Curtis, Mountain View, and Fairview. There are only 3 accesses to Curtis Road from the area, the neighborhood. So you're turning all of that traffic into that one intersection. There's a big problem. Particularly, frequently, the connector gets backed up, there's a wreck, whatever, traffic goes to Fairview, it gets backed up, then it all starts coming into our neighborhood. There's a lot of traffic when that happens, going through all of those streets. One of the other issues is the cruise and lateral irrigation system. I don't know if they've been contacted, but that is a lateral off the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, and it has to be addressed. There are water users served by that system. And I haven't seen anything that addresses how that water delivery system is going to be adjusted, changed. I don't see how they can run it anywhere else. And it's a big problem. Other than that, it's the height and size issue. It's too big. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Lisa Kaiser. You would state your name and address for the record too, please.
Lisa Kaiser, 2435 Mountain View Drive. I didn't want to talk today because I might say something I regret. Looking around this town, you guys have done a pretty sad job of letting things go up and when they have no business going up. And it's as if you could care less. I'd like to know if any of you know where the Magnolia Apartments are. Do either of you, any of you? Those are subsidized housing that have been here for over 20 years. You might drive down one of those streets and see if it's impacted those neighborhoods, because it has. I've lived there for 17 years. Things go missing in those neighborhoods. People wander the streets at night in those neighborhoods. And cars park doing all kinds of things in those kinds of neighborhoods. 6 stories of that you want to put on our neighborhood after you ruined the 1930 bungalows at Orchard and Franklin. They don't get sun until the middle of the day. That was a beautiful little neighborhood back in there. And now they get to stare at a black box, which is going up all over town. Oh, they put stucco on the top. But we all know why it's 6 stories and 205 units is because of greed. How many can we shove in there and park on the street? And who cares what the neighborhood's like? They'll just complain, but we'll ignore it. You do nothing to hear the people of this town. We see it going up daily. Trucks going up and down our roads at all hours of the night. No one's enforcing any of the laws that I can see. No compression brakes. We just wonder what that's going to be like when this happens to our neighborhood. It's not going to be our neighborhood any longer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the list, John Hartgrove. John, if you will, just state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Hargrove. I live at 5422 West Cruzen Street. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the 2 issues that I want to hit on are parking. I understand that there are minimum requirements that are set forth. I guess my thinking is just that there's going to be spillover. And my request is that we would think creatively about how to solve these issues. It's one thing to put a development there and appease the people that are going to be in the development, but as you've seen here, people have concerns, and working with the local neighborhood would be particularly helpful. Second one is traffic. I wasn't sure, was there a traffic impact study that was done associated with this based off of the minimum number of estimated trips?
I believe there's a ACHD report that was included in the packet. But...
Gotcha. Yeah. So full disclosure, I relied on AI, and I'll own that. But it did say that based off of the specs of this particular development, that the expectation is that there would be a traffic impact study. For me personally, as has been reiterated, or I'm just reiterating what other people have said, is that the intersection of Bond and Orchard is of particular concern. Orchard is one where a lot of the gravel trucks will come from gravel pits over by the airport. They'll go down Orchard, they'll barrel down towards Chinden and then take a left. That's currently an uncontrolled left or right, and I just have legitimate concerns that people could get into bad accidents there. And then additionally, as was previously mentioned, was that in the time that I've lived there, which is less than 10 years, I've seen an uptick in traffic where people are cutting through the neighborhood. And so if there's one take home from the few comments that I have, is just to think creatively. So if there's a way to minimize the number of cars that are going to go directly into the heart of the neighborhood, but instead push them so that they use Fairview, Orchard, and Curtis. That would be helpful for everybody in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next, Zane Sterling. Zane, if you will, state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Zane Sterling. I live at 1901 Mountain View Drive. Lived there 32 years, which consider myself kind of a newcomer to the neighborhood after only 32 years. Same issue across the board, parking. But I'm kind of a numbers guy. I feel like we're being hoodwinked here when we see the architect and design with these, nicely painted buildings and 2 or 3 cars out there. When we stop and think about just an absolute minimum, 1 car per apartment, you're talking 205 cars. Then you go to 135 spaces. That leaves 70 cars. Average car takes 23 feet to park. So you're talking over 1,600 feet of cars needing to be parked off-site. Not on-site. There's no way to hide these cars. You can't look at a picture and go, oh, there's only 3 cars in front of that building. You're talking about 1,600 feet. Our average block, I walked it, I lasered it, has about 200 feet. Now that's not including access, ingress, egress for driveways. So you've got less than 200 feet per block. We need 1,600 feet of off-street or on-street parking. Where are you going to put 8 blocks worth of cars every day, every night? The average car parked on the street is 5 to 6 times as likely to be either stolen or vandalized. You're going to increase pedestrian traffic. You're going to increase potential for running over kids, running over our pets. And you're going to have 1,600 feet of cars that have to park in our neighborhood. So when these people come and want to develop these buildings, they bought the dirt. But what they're going to do is take over and control our entire neighborhood. And that's what's not okay. They're not going to just be in their, if they could be in their own space, fine, bring people in. They're going to be taking over our neighborhood. 1,600 feet worth of cars have to be parked somewhere. So I'm going to ask you guys, you're going to consider this. When you go home tonight or tomorrow morning, walk out of your driveway, stand in your street, and look and think about how far 1,600 feet worth of cars parked end to end would be in your neighborhood, and how would it change it? Thanks.
Thank you. That concludes our sign-in sheet for tonight. Are there other members of the public here wishing to testify? Yes, ma'am. If you would, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Primrose Foot. I live at 1807 North Philippi. I've lived there for a long time. I lived there when I was little. My parents lived there, and now I am raising my daughter there. And one of our favorite things to do is to walk a few blocks down to Mountain View, where there are no cars parked along the bench. She rides her scooter. She can be far away from me. I know she's safe because there's no cars and I can see her. We've got a beautiful view of the valley. It feels safe and we love it there. And we don't want to leave. And we don't want to not feel safe in our neighborhood. I don't want to not be able to take her outside because there's so many cars that it's not safe for us to be on the street. Kelsch is a huge concern, not even just thinking about the kids walking back and forth. Do they have room for that many children? Like the Boise School District is already bursting at the seams, and I don't know that that has even been looked at all. I heard the developer say a couple of times that this is housing for seniors, veterans, and families. Seniors and veterans is coming first, I think, because it makes it sound better. I don't know that there's actually any kind of provision in there to say that X number of units will be rented to seniors or rented to veterans. I just thought that was kind of an interesting spin that they're trying to take. the parking, everyone has already talked about it. I don't want strangers parking in front of my house every night, different cars every night, cars coming and going. It's a quiet neighborhood. One of my neighbors actually had some car trouble the other night. He had a tow truck that ended up bringing his trailer home at about 1:30 in the morning, woke me up. I was concerned because there's lights shining in my window. It's usually very quiet and safe at night. He came over the next day and told me what had gone on and apologized. That's the kind of neighborhood this is. You don't have people coming and going at 1:30 in the morning. And when you do, we talk about it to make sure that we feel safe and that we're respecting each other. So that's really how we want to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public tonight wishing to testify? Yes, sir. Again, if you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Dave Glancy, 2111 North Philippi. As far as like the design review board's purview, we have to discuss the building. Everyone's comments come down to two major things, and it's density. That density drives the parking, which drives the traffic and everything else. That's something that you have say over. We can't say parking or the traffic only goes this way, that way. So as far as the design review committee looks at it, the massing of this is all wrong because of the scale and the use. It's too dense, it's too tall. We're at the 43rd parallel, 70 feet. That shadow in the winter is going to go 100 feet. That goes across the road into the neighbor's property. That's not okay. The massing of the building, the shape of it is not for the neighborhood. It's built around courtyards on the second floor for residents only. It does nothing for the community. And that's one of my concerns with the design is it's too tall. It doesn't provide the open space that they claim because it's not actually for the community. It's strictly for the residents there. One of the issues with the parking is they're providing a lift system. I think that makes up 20, 24, 29 spaces somewhere in there. If that's out, now it's just exacerbated. So if there's a power failure, if there's maintenance that's not getting done, those spaces are inaccessible. So realistically, the actual parking provided is much lower. I'm not against development. I'm an architect myself. This just isn't the right zoning. Back in the day, when just a couple years ago, they decided to turn all of Fairview into MX3. Realistically, at this area, it should have been more like a MX1 zone, 4 stories. That's a good density for this area. It also doesn't give as many bonuses for mixed use and things like that. So if we're getting like a 10% reduction in parking because of the mixed use, and then on top of that, you're getting another half off because of affordable. Now we're just not providing enough parking for the number of units. The number of bedrooms provided is way higher than the parking count. So we just got to find a happy medium in there. It also doesn't appear to meet the design guidelines. I mean, it goes up 70 feet. Stair tower goes above that. There's no room for rooftop units, anything like that. If you look at the section, they've got a foot parapet running around. How are they going to screen anything on the roof? We don't want to have another situation where you can see those as you're driving down, or they have to retrofit some sort of barricade around the top of that. Now they've just gone. All right.
Thank you very much. Other members tonight wishing to testify? Seeing none in person. Josh, are any online?
Mr. Chairman, we do have 2 individuals online, so if they would like to speak, please raise your hands.
Nobody? Okay. Thank you. Well, I'd turn it back to the applicant if they'd like to come up and for their rebuttal. And
thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Joe Dodson. I live at 1027 West 12th Street, Meridian. I'll be doing a little bit of rebuttal as the planner, and then I'll kick it to Andrew to finish off. And try to be quick since we only have a short amount of time. Just want to retouch. The land use is not part of the discussion tonight in the sense of it's already permitted within the MX3 zone. We are compliant with all city standards as well as the future land use and the future intentions of the property, based off the Boise's guiding principles and their guiding documents, like the comprehensive plan as an example. As far as traffic, obviously major concern of residents, understood. It makes sense if based upon the existing development, any redevelopment of the site is going to increase the traffic for this area. Whether you put one building or 17, it's going to increase the traffic just because right now it's completely underutilized. That includes bicycle and pedestrian traffic. The sidewalk concern, obviously understood per ACHD as well as Boise's policies and doing right in general. We're, as mentioned, completing all of the sidewalk along our frontage so that will minimize and eliminate a lot of sidewalk gaps, at least on that block. ACHD did not require a traffic impact study, despite it being 100 units or more, because the adjacent right-of-way of all of the adjacent roadways is already there. And so when that happens, transportation agencies typically don't require traffic impact studies because the impact is not going to be mitigated through additional right-of-way and those types of things. So they just didn't. And then they have also stated within their staff report, they support the project and don't have any concerns themselves, minus the parking, which Andrew will address as well. Again, we are completing sidewalks everywhere that is required. And the schools, couple things on that. The school districts are notified of the public hearings when these are submitted. They did not submit a letter back to the city. Typically, as in my day job as a city planner, that means that jurisdiction is okay with the project. First of all. Secondly, we are constructing the sidewalk adjacent to the site, which helps with some of that pedestrian element and those issues of school children walking by and the neighboring residents too. And lastly, as a little anecdotal, across the country, people are just having less kids. They really are. My wife and I included, we're probably one and done. It's a lot of financial as well as just life choices there. And multiple districts within the valley have a lot of numbers to validate that the overall enrollment is planned to go down or at least maintain rather than increase because of that fact. And then lastly, when it comes to parking on the street, I definitely understand that. This is something I poke at my wife about because she gets mad when people park in front of our house, and I have to try to poke at her and say, well, just because we see it doesn't mean we control it, and it is the public realm. But do understand how that can impact neighbors, and I'll kick the rest to Andrew.
Thank you, Joe, Mr. Commissioner, and members of the commission. So I definitely am sensitive to the fact of what everyone's saying here. I mean, it is an impact, and we recognize that. And our goal is to find a solution and a project that meets both the project needs and is a good project for the area. Now, most people up here said that we love affordable housing. We want affordable housing. Everyone says that, but everyone just doesn't want it where they live. Now, where do you put it is one of the issues. I mean, you need density, you need high urban transit, and you need location to services, meaning downtown Boise, Fairview, everything around there. Now, there are those elements on this project, and urban sprawl is not the answer. Even if we don't build a dense project here, growth is coming. Growth is going to happen whether we want it or not. So building more homes further out isn't going to help the traffic. That traffic is still going to funnel down Fairview to downtown Boise. So that wreck that happens is still going to funnel more cars. And the main point with the city of Boise's zoning code rewrite was the chicken and the egg. Do you build the housing to support the infrastructure for the transit, or do you build the transit then hope that the housing comes? The city chose, let's rezone so we can get the housing first to support the infrastructure. That's the mission, that's the vision that's been projected by the city of Boise that we are following, that we're abiding by, and we're trying to produce a quality project that's going to house people that are in need. So to kind of go down through a couple of the list of items here, can we put up that presentation, please? So we did take into consideration the sun. How are we going to mitigate the impact of the sun on residents? So a few diagrams here. So this is in the fall. In the fall at 6 a.m., you can see on Bond on the north, there's very little impact on the surrounding neighborhood. 9 a.m., same thing. Noon in the fall. Oh, so these are 4 different images. Upper left is 6 a.m. fall time. Oh, yes. That time is. Yeah, we'll continue here
okay.
because we have some questions after. I think these are some of the questions that we'll be asking you concerning the shading. So please continue. Yeah. So Bond Street's on the north right here. Yeah. So each one of these just a different timestamp. It goes from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. with intervals in between. So in each of these, you can see, and this is set to that site location with the height at that 69 feet that we're proposing. Now, in the wintertime, yes, it does impact everything. That was one of the reasons why we had this, we notched out the building here to at least allow some sun to come through here. And that sun would travel across these homes in the wintertime. So that this is a negative impact in the winter. We recognize that. I mean, we can have a discussion of potentially stepping down that northern edge at building B. You know, how much that's going to help or not. I mean, is that going to make everyone happy? Probably not. If you look at the springtime, so this is 6 a.m. spring, 9 a.m. spring, 12 noon spring, and 3 p.m. spring. No shadow on any house in the surrounding area. Now, clearly, if those are not shadowing, the summer's not either. So here again, that concern over vegetation getting enough sunlight or anything to that effect is not a concern. It's not a reality on the project. A few other things. So built projects. So our client has a couple built projects in Utah of affordable housing. And these are senior projects and family projects. Now, as we know, seniors typically have less vehicles. Now, this is historical data of a built project of 130 units in a senior project, and 20% of them have vehicles. That's not a stat or a conjecture or a guess. It's a reality of what that is. In the family project, it's 50% have vehicles. Now at the neighborhood meeting for this project, you can imagine there were a lot of upset people and people voicing their opinions, very similar here today. One of the things people kept asking is, why is it half a stall per unit? And good question. So I talked to several city planners at the city of Boise, and where did this data come from? Like, why is it half a stall? And I was assured by multiple planners that extensive studies have been done to show that the historical data of what affordable housing projects actually need to park to service all the residents is the 0.5. So that's where that's coming from. And that's why the body of the city of Boise decided that that's the metric, that's the target, and that's what we're providing. So there's a reality of what happens in affordable housing, and there's a perception. I think that most of the discussion here is around, let's build it elsewhere. I don't know if there is a better elsewhere.
Wait, excuse me, the time for public comment is over. Thank you.
Fair, I hear you. The city of Boise set the target. They set the MX3 zone. They set the height limit. They set the density. They set the reason why they set that was so that we could have the support, the infrastructure for mixed use development, for mass transit, to the long-term goal of reducing parking issues. That's how you do it. I mean, you don't just kick the can down the road and hope that's going to solve itself. I mean, you look at autonomous cars and stuff too. Some gentleman mentioned San Francisco. I don't know if any of you have been to San Francisco, but I have, and they have autonomous vehicles. It's coming. I mean, it's not here yet. It might be a while, but we have to build and plan for the next 50 years, not the next 3 years. So the lift system power failure comment. So these buildings do require generators already for the backup elevator systems and that type of thing. So these do already include generators in both buildings. And meeting the design guidelines, we do provide, there will be screening in the center of the building, but the units, the mechanical units will be mostly in the middle of the roof, and it will be screened, and you're not going to see those, unless you're well elevated. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone's comments to this project. We're here to find a common ground and a solution that meets all parties' needs. Thank you. Questions for the applicant from the commission at this point? No, I'm sorry. Oh, can I answer that? Go ahead. Yes. So we did, let me pull up a slide here. This actually did come up. We coordinated with NMID, Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, extensively. If I can find the right site plan. I don't believe I have, you can see it right here. So you see these dashed lines right here? This is a 30-foot NMID easement that then crosses over Fairview.
And we designed the building to be completely outside of that. It crosses over right here. This is where it impacts and then comes down. And so we're already in line with what their requirement is.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions for applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Well, at this point, we'll close the public portion of the testimony tonight and bring it back to the commission for discussion and a motion. Do you have a quick question for staff on the liftable, stackable parking? Have we had that come through with a parking reduction such as this before in other projects?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I don't know if we've had it with a parking reduction, but we have had that proposed on other projects and we've approved that in the past.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Day.
And to piggyback on that, do those count as part of the general parking requirement?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes, we would count those towards the required parking.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Caitlin, could you maybe just describe real quickly how the 50% parking reduction gets approved?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, because the project is complying with our affordability incentive, the applicant will provide that documentation prior to building permit issuance. We will do a final parking calculation based on their final unit counts, their bedroom counts, exactly what that tenant is at the corner. And then the residential parking reduction will be 50% of that residential number.
When that's outlined in code and they're not asking for an exception. Is that
Correct. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that is an incentive that if they meet the requirements, they receive that reduction.
Thank you. Other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Aguilar.
Caitlin, can you confirm for everyone and myself the definition of the building height? I'm looking at some of the elevations. And the staff report, I believe, says the max is 70, but it looks like there's some areas of the building that exceed that. So I just wanted confirmation of that definition.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, we do have the 70-foot height limit of the zone, and then we do have an exceptions to building height limits table in our code. So there are certain items that are allowed to exceed that maximum height, and that would include generally mechanical equipment or elevator overruns that are required as part of a building.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay. I think I'd first like to thank all the public for coming out and testifying tonight. Appreciate the respectful nature of the discussion for tonight as well. And as kind of stated, the design review really is looking at site and building design issues and not looking at traffic and some of the other, the size and the zoning requirements of the building.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Stead.
I think to dive a little deeper into that, we are explicitly forbidden actually from discussing massing, building envelope, and parking, as these are very strictly outlined within the zoning code and the building standards. So also tangential to that would be density, that we do not have density limitations in the city. That is not how we track our buildings in terms of scale or occupants or anything like that. So what we can discuss here are fenestration, materiality, general design principles, and that's about it. And to those points, I think that this is fairly well conceived and executed historicist design. I think that this reflects a significant deal of care that goes into detailing. This is a series of elevations and renderings that I don't think we would typically see at this point, for better or worse. I mean, I'd love to see more that are fleshed out to this level in this commission, but usually we see something like this at a work session later. I think that the efforts taken to reduce the perceived massing, I think that the durability of the materials, the fact that we're not just looking at something that's all stucco or EIFS or fiber cement panel, those are all kind of materials that speak to stand it up, fill it up, and then flip it kind of a mentality. But I think, metal panel and brick and the level of design that's been put into this is a more permanent and invested approach to this sort of project, which I appreciate. I think that getting back to the form-based nature of our zoning and the fact that height, mass, setbacks are all dictated by our zoning code, the fact that we see a building that is intentionally stepping back and is giving up density and is doing that with the express purpose of being a better neighbor it's noteworthy. It might not seem like enough to a lot of people, but once again, our hands are tied in that regard. If you guys want to give us more power, I'd love a lot more sort of like lenience. Talk to your city council members about that. The fact that we see these, highly conceptual building murals and the fact that that's something that's being committed to at this point rather than kind of used as a bargaining chip down the road, I think that's also noteworthy. I appreciate the thought that went into those as well. I think the message that I would reiterate is that, we have a very strange system of government and overlapping of authority in this county where this city does not control its streets. The traffic impact study is something that is done at ACHD's discretion and based on their own metrics. They have nothing to do with the city of Boise. I see a lot of merit in the discussion of, what is the level of service at these intersections where they come onto Curtis or where they come onto Orchard. Should they be right in, right out? That's not for me to say. I see a lot of merit to that discussion as well. But again, that's something that needs to be discussed with ACHD. Their commission has open door meetings and they do have public testimony period at the end where you can bring any issue that you would like to discussion. I would encourage you to do that. I wish I knew which days they met.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Stead. Other discussion points?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Hager.
I do have a couple concerns with the architecture. One, the color palette. I'm not a fan of the orange. I can't remember what that color is called on
The accent panels.
the accent panels. My personal preference is just more muted. And it's obvious it was trying to tie into the proposed murals. I don't know if that's something we can address now or it's something that should be addressed when the murals do come back and see if there's maybe a more appropriate color there. The balconies, I love that the developer is showing all the balconies. It's rare that we see that amount of balconies on affordable housing projects. I guess I would ask as a potential condition though, in terms of what the market's doing in terms of construction costs, they're usually the first thing to go when folks need to start looking at costs and finding ways to save money. So I guess if those need to be reconsidered and need to depart the project, I would like to have the developer come back and present the new drawings and to us so we can review those. I'd like to see the rendering, the exterior rendering at night. I don't know if someone can pull that up. Thank you. It appears to me that all the balconies have lights on those. And I know there's already a requirement about those, the exterior lights need to be shielded. I'm a little concerned, especially in this neighborhood and its proximity to the residential component, if less is more in terms of exterior lighting here. If this was a downtown project, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I think it's more, it's appropriate in the more urban environment and aesthetically nicer, but I'd like some consideration and thought on that light noise and relative to the existing neighborhood, surrounding neighborhood. Those are all the comments I think that I'm able to address in design review that I have. Thank you.
I think the only other piece, I think it would be, I don't believe the section cut that they showed did show the mechanical units or how they were screened. I think additional input on some of the screening should be shared.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
That seems like an issue for a work session.
That's kind of where we're headed toward on this one. So currently we have shielding of exterior lighting. I think a better lighting for just safety on the ground level as well on all sides for sidewalks and stuff. Be nice to have a better indication of what the exterior lighting is at the ground level, as well as how to address the shielding on lights on the balcony areas. The orange, I think it wouldn't hurt to see some different colors in a work session as well to review, as well as HVAC, being able to shield it from view. With that, I'd be open for motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Hurstead.
I move that we approve item DRH 25-00226 with the amended condition of approval of a work session requiring exploration of rooftop screening, mechanical screenings specifically, lighting plans along elevations and reflected in renderings, and alternatives for color selection on the accent paneling.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion between you? Hearing none. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Marsh,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Erstad,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
And with that concludes our items for tonight's hearing. And with that, we are adjourned.